Beside a riverbank in the Rhodope Mountains of southern Bulgaria, a woman sings. She sings about the big spring festival that will take place in early May. There will be lamb roasted on a spit, wine, and brandy, delicacies steeped in local tradition. And there will be music as well, chants, dances, and mournful songs of the bagpipe, the classic musical instrument of Bulgaria. In the town of Momchilavici, the bagpipes are still made by hand. Artisan Petru Yanov carefully prepares a goatskin bellow. He's a master of the craft and would never think of creating the instrument any other way than by hand. Love of music runs in the blood of the people of this part of Bulgaria. Greek myth reveals that in these mountains, Orpheus, a legendary singer and musician, dwelled. He passed on his talent to the people of the region. Ever since, the area has been full of exceptional musicians. Handcrafts are an important means of expression for nearly all people here. The women of Momchilavici are weavers, whereas many men are woodcarvers. The raw material grows right outside their doors. The Rhodope Mountains are home to the most densely wooded mountain area in Bulgaria. By Christo, or Old Mr. Christo as the villagers call him, is one of the carvers. By Christo is already 74 years old. His steady business and busy training workshop, however, keep him from thoughts of retirement. There are two keys he stresses to his students. First, love for wood is crucial. It's the most important prerequisite for success. Next is skill, which evolves over time. Wood, says by Christo, shows its soul only to the person who gives his own soul in exchange. So does his wife have a reason to be jealous?
Дървета? Не. Няма ревно. Даже ми помага в много случаи. Тя ми дава вдъхновение. Ами и двете. Първо повече жената, после дървото. А понякога повече и дървото. Не винаги. Това е.
At the early age of 10, Christo took the chisel in his hand. Nature became his taskmaster. It provided not only material, but also served as a source of motifs for his work. Today, these showpieces can be admired in churches and palaces all over Bulgaria. The residence of Toto Shivkov, the former Communist Party leader, is home to some of Bai's greatest work. This laborious job was a pleasant chapter in his life.
Така е. Сега просто се вълнувам, но виждам творчеството, което ми топли душата. Да.
The ceiling in Toto Shivkov's bedroom is also Bai's work. Shivkov held Bai in high regard and often invited him for dinner. This humbled Christo, he says, for he is a man of simple beginnings.
Това са спомени, които не мога да забравя през целия живот. Човек, който обича народа. Самоук съм завършил нищо, имам средно образование, нямам даже начално училище.
Mid-May is the time of the feast, a favorite event all over Bulgaria. The theme is a biblical one, the story of Abraham and Isaac. At the center is the sacrificial lamb. The spit has to be turned by hand for up to 8 hours over glowing charcoal. Here in Bulgaria, it's clearly men's business. Meanwhile, the women prepare heaps of salad. Many guests will attend the evening party. At last, it's time to celebrate. No festival in Bulgaria is complete without plenty of song and dance. Before it adopted Christian overtones, this celebration was the pagan spring feast of the Thracians, the original inhabitants of Bulgaria. They lived 5,000 years ago between the Danube and the Aegean, a territory desired by a constantly changing string of conquerors. The plains that lie north of the Balkan Mountains and south of the Danube have been the theater of many bloody battles from the ancient world to modern times. Nearly 2,000 years ago, the Romans defeated the Thracians and built a city here, Nicopolis at Istrum. Istrum is the Latin name for the Danube. Nicopolis is a Greek word, a linguistic concession made to the conquered. The literal translation, City of Victory on the Danube. It was an ambitious project, complete with stages, libraries, bathhouses, a sewage water system, and cobblestone streets. Emperor Trajan wanted to tame the barbarians by impressing them with sheer cultural power. For archaeologists Pavlina Vlatkova and Ivan Zanov, the area is a cornucopia of priceless artifacts. Bulgaria is about the same size as the state of Virginia. Many of its 38,000 cultural and historic sites have only been partially excavated, often for private financial gain. Nevertheless, these archaeologists wouldn't dream of changing professions. To them, archaeology is not a job, it's a mission and a childhood dream that has come true.
Не обичам да работя в канцелария, обичам да бъда сред природата, обичам такъв огън, обичам работа с млади хора, обичам всички тези неща. И имам добра съпруга, която ме издържа.
Сега тук, като седя при този огън, който сме запалили, се връщам назад във времето, доста години назад. Тогава, когато още студентка бях и точно такива огньови се палиха и когато около тях ние обсъждахме ежедневната си работа.
The ancient city became their first excavation site nearly 30 years ago. Since then, they've managed to reconstruct its history. The Romans abandoned the city in the 7th century. Bulgaria became a side theater of war during the barbarian invasions. During one such invasion, the present-day Bulgarian nation was formed. Bulgaria's tumultuous history and cultural pride are the topic of a light and sound show in Veliko Chernovo, the former capital north of the Balkan Mountains. The attraction is not only for tourists. Christos Sharitonov, curator of the local museum, is a regular guest as well.
Един от моите предшественици е бил войвода на Чета в бой срещу нашествениците. Но най-обичам от всичко моята родина, България. Да пием за България.
Fortress and residence of former Bulgarian rulers, Veliko Chernovo was the center of Bulgarian power. Outside attempts to take over often occurred. But only the Turks managed to conquer the fortress by treason at the end of the 14th century. This began 500 years of Turkish domination. It's a chapter that's not completely over. Even at picnics and family celebrations, the discussions center around the pros and cons of Turkish influence. The social system of the conquerors was far more equitable than others in Europe. Science and technology of the Muslim Ottoman Empire were at the time far ahead in relation to the Christian Occident. Yet, cultural separation from Western Europe ultimately cost Bulgaria dearly. In the old town of Veliko Chernovo, one can still feel centuries of history and tradition. Christo Sharitanov took part in its restoration.
Просто това е една атмосфера, където човек се връща 2-3 века назад. И най-важното е, че произведеното тук можете веднага да си го купите, защото то излиза непосредствено от ръцете на майстора.
In addition to the old town of Veliko Chernovo, Christo is responsible for 27 other historic sites. His favorite is a village on the other side of the river Jantra, Arbanasi. For 500 years, the church bells here remained silent. Steeples were always built beneath the level of all mosque spires. These were the Turkish conquerors' rules. The response was to make the insides of the church even more splendid. Frescoes, more than 500 years old, grace the church of St. Demetrius. For 10 years, Evgeny Nikolov has been working to restore them. Christo comes here quite often to monitor the operations.
Добър ден. Добър ден, колега. Тези изображения, можем ли да считаме, че те са приключени окончателно?
Да.
It's a pleasant break for Evgeny, having someone around who can discuss art. He says being a restorer is all about self-denial. He cannot allow his own ideas to have any influence. The only thing that matters is getting as close as possible to the original.
Свети Димитър е патрона на храма, а Свети Георги на Параклиса.
What's a restorer thinking when he tries to breathe life back into an ancient creation?
Ами има една българска поговорка, който пее зло не мисли. Аз я допълвам с фразата, който рисува зло също не мисли. Преди всичко мисля за работата, която върша, защото тя е доста отговорна. Има нужда човек да бъде концентриран, съсредоточен, да положи максимално подходящия тон. Това ангажира моето внимание и моята мисъл. Разбира се, мисля си за ред други неща. За историята, за Ако щете, какво е било времето, епохата, когато са създадени тия стенописи, този храм, какви хора са посещавали също.
People lived behind these walls. Their lives were regulated by the Orthodox Church calendar. The highlight of the year was Easter. Christo demonstrates the customs of 500 years ago.
Сватя Христос Възкресе! Нося ви яйца от нашето семейство за здраве и за дълъг живот.
Христос воистина възкресе, да сте живи и здрави.
Селото се ползвало със специален статут още при Сюлейман I, великолепния, който управлява Османската империя от 1522 година до 1560 година. Подарява това село на своя зет Рустем Паша и заради този дар селото се ползва с специални привилегии.
The first advantage to living here was tax exemption in return for the defense of the empire's frontier. All the houses were made of stone, a visible sign of wealth. Elsewhere, this was uncommon. The thick walls also served as fortification against invading tribes. Christo and his colleagues have collected objects here that dominated daily life back then.
А като се влезе в тази къща, ние виждаме известна смесица между народния бита на българите от по-ранен период, примерно 15-16 век, с вещи и предмети, които някакси на пръв поглед не се връзват с останалите. Тези предмети са донесени при пътуванията от стопаните на тази къща до Централна Европа.
Living inside a tax haven, the former peasants of this town accumulated substantial wealth. Many became successful merchants, yet the church bells remained silent for 500 years. Then, 30 miles to the south, the tide turned. Here in the Shipka Pass in the Balkan Mountains, Russia defeated the Ottoman troops in a decisive battle in 1878. But the liberation of their fellow Slavs and Orthodox Christians was not the real reason for Russia's Balkan campaign. Russia also had its own interests in the region, an influence that continued into the 20th century when Bulgaria became a communist state and a member of the Warsaw Pact. Nevertheless, the Shipka Pass became a national monument of liberation, even in post-communist Bulgaria. In the past, the mountains at Shipka Pass were a popular hideout for guerrilla warriors. Today, they're a venue for artists. Stoyan Pavlov only goes to town to buy paint. Only in this countryside, he says, can he find what he craves: total silence. The beautiful scenery is an inexhaustible source of inspiration for him.
Реката до тетки шуми, хората са добри тук, животни навсекъде, на където се обърнеш. По-ми се рисува тук, като дойда. На спокойствие, няма кой да те притеснява, няма трамвай, няма нищо. Има си кръчма тук.
The wine that Stoyan drinks at the pub is made on the other side of the mountains. The Balkan Mountains are a primary watershed, making South Bulgaria a rich and fertile land. Bulgarian wine is successfully pushing its way into the Western markets. The most famous wine comes from the town of Melnik. Melnik has the other distinction of being the smallest town of Bulgaria. It's been restored in recent years to postcard perfection. In the Middle Ages, the town was known far beyond the national borderlines, with commercial contacts as far away as Germany, Austria, and Italy. The best-selling export was then, as it is now, red wine. But the end of Turkish domination in the late 1800s saw a decline in Melnik's status. The former center of the empire became a border town far away from new trade routes. An earthquake and plague did the rest. Out of 1,300 wine-growing families, only 93 remained. One of them was the family of Nasko Manolev. Wine has been the pride and joy of the family for generations. Wine tastings are a frequent event in their cellars, built into the rock high above the town.
Also dir fällt es hundertprozentig raus schön. Ja. Wie nicht dein Temperament jetzt in der Zwischenzeit.
Da kommt unser Essen und Wein.
Wunderbar. Ja, gerne.
Ja.
Danke. Merci heißt es.
The tastings are a ritual, as hospitality is a long-standing tradition, but they also make good business sense.
Мелник от край време, откъде съществува, винаги се е правило вино в него. Това е една от основните причини. Той е известен с културната си ценност, която и природа, защото мелнишкото вино на нито друго едно место по целия свят не се среща тая лоза, от която то се прави. Това е уникален сорт грозде, който вирее само в нашия регион и с това може Мелник и България да се гордее, че го имаме този сорт грозде. Обичаме да гледаме лозя, обичаме да пиеме вино и обичаме с това да се занимаваме.
Dankeschön. Ja,
Славия.
The ancient Thracians were excellent wine growers. Back then, wine was stored in clay jugs. Pottery making continues to flourish in Bulgaria, an art passed down through the generations. But only after the fall of communism did Master Georgios's childhood dream come true, his own workshop. Now, his most fervent wish is to have lots of visitors.
Света да разбере, че България е страна с проблеми, но хората вървят напред и искат да бъдат опознати, искат да бъдат разбрани. В България има много красиви неща, които е хубаво да бъдат видяни от света.
Georgios's workshop is situated in the nearby town of Plovdiv. At the moment, it's still virtually unknown to tourists, but it's becoming more and more popular every day. Part of the new attraction is the hospitality of the locals. It's a Bulgarian tradition, but here in Plovdiv, it borders on civic duty. Hospitality is something Gergana, a local waitress, knows very well.
За мен и за цялото ми семейство е много важно да се събираме по празниците, традиции, да се приготвят хубави гозби и добра трапеза. Българина се слави с това, че обича хубавите гозби и доброто пиене.
She doesn't have far to go. She works in a popular restaurant in the city center. an establishment that once catered to the Pope on his visit to Bulgaria. It's a family enterprise. The restaurant's chef, Slavo, is Gergana's father. The specialty of the house is stewed meat or poultry in clay jars. The jars are naturally from Georgios' pottery shop.
Това е специалитет на ресторанта в Рангите.
Чувал съм, че е много вкусен.
The Bulgarian cuisine comprises more than 5,000 recipes from 5 millennia. Particularly popular are the dishes that have their roots in the Orthodox monasteries. Bulgarian monks are considered gourmets, and they always built their monasteries in the most beautiful surroundings. A fine example is Bachkovo, about an hour's drive from Plovdiv. Although it's the second largest monastery in Bulgaria, only 7 monks still live here. Resistance against foreign domination began to stir first in monasteries like this one. For many years, monks kept up the struggle for the preservation of the Bulgarian language and culture. No doubt Brother Simeon and Brother Atanas have plenty of stories to tell, but the bylaws of the monastery swear them to secrecy towards any secular visitors. The call for the evening service is a deliberate reminder of the dark times when the bells fell silent. The monastery's greatest achievement by far is the Slav alphabet created in 855 AD. Today it serves as a script for 200 million people worldwide. The authors were 2 Bulgarian monks, Kirill and Methody. They are national heroes. They even have their own Saints' Day, a folk festival for young and old. In communist times, attendance was a duty. As the crowds in the capital city of Sofia prove, people are more than happy to come voluntarily. The Saints' Day of the Slav Apostles marks the start of another folk festival, the Roses Harvest. The epicenter of this event is the Valley of Kazanik, south of the Balkan Mountains. The picking process is a race against time. The harvest only lasts about 2 or 3 weeks, and all the picking must be done between dawn and about 8 a.m., when the air is cool and the petals are moist with dew. For Jaroslava, this is one of the best days of the year. This philosophy student completed her semester in Paris a few days early, just so she would be here to pick the fragrant blossoms. It takes about 250 pounds of rose petals to manufacture 1 ounce of essence of roses. That's one reason the liquid is so precious and worth about 10 times its weight in gold. The origin of this manufacturing art lies in Iran. The Turks brought it to Bulgaria approximately 300 years ago. Today, Bulgaria is known for having the finest rose oil in the world. Most of the rose pickers and plant workers live here in the village of Turnicini. The town is a diverse blend of Turks, Gypsies, and Bulgarians, groups that don't always coexist without friction. Substantial profit from the rose business enjoyed by all helps to ease ethnic tension. Every village in the region sends a delegation to the district capital of Kazanik in honor of the Rose Festival, which takes place on the 1st of July. The customs and rituals that surround this event are so ancient that their origins are largely unknown. Take, for example, the kukeri. These outlandish costumes were probably intended to scare away evil spirits. A somewhat newer tradition. Each year, a Queen of Roses is crowned. Julia Nikolova is the 100th Queen of Roses. The 23-year-old queen proclaims a message to the people.
Много любов, много успивки, много обич. Нека думите ми докоснат вашите сърца. Едва тогава бих се почувствала действително пълнокръвна царица. Благодаря ви.
As summer passes, pink is followed by blue. Soon after the roses, lavender erupts into bloom. Like the rose, it's a powerful source of foreign currency. By contrast, Nature is left to its own devices in nearby Ropotamo National Park. This place is a journey back in time to the land of Thrace as it once was. It's also the favorite haunt of naturalist Daniil Antonov. After getting an engineering degree and serving in the Merchant Navy, he's now campaigning for green tourism.
Значи, река Ропотомо, в която се движим в момента, е ново корито, което е около 2000 годишно. Значи, преди реката се е движила на друго место, където била границата между България и Византия, старото корито на реката. И следствие, нали, пропадане на земни маси, може би, значи, реката сменя своето корито. И оттам е името на реката, което е Ропотамо, значи Потамо е река, а Ро е гранична река.
The old riverbed is now a paradise for many animals. The Ropotamo estuary, where the river meets the Black Sea, harbors an ancient secret, the submerged city of Chersonesus. Daniil Antonov discovered it several years ago, but he's not divulging its location. Until adequate protections are in place, the threat of looters is far too great.
Има запазени 3 улички, от която едната около 20 метра е идеално запазена и доста зидове от сградите на къщите. И другото интересно е, че има доста неща, които е хубаво да се направи една експедиция, да се изкарат за поколенията, да се видят. В общи линии това е.
Just north of the Ropotamo River, another city has arisen from the sands, Sosopol, founded by the Greeks. Since ancient times, this city thrived on productive fisheries, but overfishing and pollution wiped out the industry. Very recently, the Black Sea has made a minor recovery, and the citizens of Sosopol have placed their hopes in a new source of income, green tourism. An abundant symbol of this city are fig trees. Their green, unripe fruit is turned into a jam, a sweet souvenir for tourists and a must at any coffee party. The preparation of coffee is a ritual act.
Силвия, голяма, хубаво сладко. Високче малко. Да. Страхотни, големи. Как наклея. Страшно. Много.
Another ritual act is to be found a few miles away in the town of Bulgaria, nestled in the Strancha Mountains. At the summer solstice, pagan religious beliefs of the Thracians live on, adapted into Christianity. A celebration of the reunion of Mother Earth with her son, the sun god. Fire still plays a decisive role. Today, the leading characters are Bulgaria's patron saints, Roman Emperor Constantine, who made Christianity the official state religion, and his mother, Helena. Mother and son, a pagan celebration retooled for a new religion. The procession's destination is a spring that was regarded as holy even in Thracian times. Baidimo, the mayor, conducts the distribution in person. The sacrifice of lamb is an equally ancient tradition. The celebration culminates with fire dancers. Only 3 villagers still master the ancient ritual. It's said that on this particular night, dreams will come true. But for many of the participants, simply being here is enough. Their homeland has withstood nearly 1,000 years of conquest, occupation, and foreign domination. Through it all, they've endured, and the culture and indomitable spirit of Bulgaria flourishes.